We had a event here, I guess it was probably last year when the conference of mayors was here. There's an organization that you can tell everybody more about, but it brings all the mayors of the major, well, it's not only the major cities, it's big and small cities from all over the country together. It's very productive. They come together for several days and they talk about what they're working on, and we got to go out to dinner, Tim Baker and I did, with the mayor of Los Angeles last year when he was here. So anyway, I'm always just curious about who you meet at that conference and who you like, and who you who you look up to, or what mayors and what cities do you think? And I know the mayor of Los Angeles is one of them, but we all do this. We all go somewhere or see that somebody else got a certain thing. We're the envy of a lot of cities at those conferences. I don't think people realize that. They're coming up to Mayor Dyer and getting in his ear about how are you able to build all this stuff and we're not able to. But I think that process is neat, the way you...
Yeah, so the U.S. Conference of Mayors is an organization, and any mayor of a city of 30,000 or more can be a member of it. I found it to be really the most productive outside organization that I'm a member of, because all mayors have basically the same issues, same problems. It's just a matter of how many dollar signs are behind it or how big the population is, but we're all picking up garbage and fixing potholes and doing those types of things. So sharing the ideas and borrowing the ideas are always good. And then having a contemporary just to talk to about how did you solve this problem. And there are some really great mayors around the country. I would say my favorite is the mayor of Charleston, a guy named Joe Riley. He's, he does at ULI.
Yeah. He's
City by Design.
Yeah, he is an urban planner that's a mayor. I mean, he's a real urbanist and a great guy.
Yeah, he's great. And Mayor Nutter in Philadelphia is another great guy. I wouldn't want to have his problems, or Mayor Bings in Detroit, but they still do a great job for their city. And it's just, I really enjoy that organization. We had the opportunity, as Craig has mentioned, we had the U.S. Conference of Mayors summer conference here. And the cool thing was, again, our community came together. Let me just tell a short little story. So Tom Cockridge, executive director of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, I'm sitting in my office one day, and he gets on the phone and says, "Hey, can I come over and visit you? I'm in town." So I figured, okay, he's on a family boondoggle, and he's going to visit the mayor so he could write it off. Had some type of business thing, and he comes in and said, "Would you bid on the summer conference 2 years from now?" And I can assure you, you're going to win. So all you got to do is put it in bid. Sure. So it was in Oklahoma City. I went out to that one and had a good time, saw the events they put on, and then I took a number of my staff to Baltimore, which was the one year before me. And it was only at that point that I learned that I had to pay for everything that occurred after 5 o'clock. The conference took care of stuff during the daytime, and then we were responsible for 4 nights of dinners and after activities and all that type of stuff. And you start adding that up for about 1,200 people, and that runs into a little bit of cash. And we figured in kind, in total, we ended up having to raise about $1.5 million to do it. But it's a great advantage when you have Disney and Universal and SeaWorld, and each one of them picked up one of the nights and did the dinner and the after stuff, so it picked up the entire thing. And we were able to show the U.S. Conference of Mayors a very good time in Orlando. And the people, I won't name the cities, but the city that was supposed to do it the next year backed out because they knew that they couldn't do what we had done, and they couldn't get anybody else to pick it up until they finally got to Vegas, and they figured Vegas was the only place.
So one thing we did for the Conference of Mayors that was good is we balanced the tourism and that. I mean, those are tremendous assets, and that's why you get a lot of stuff. But we did have quite a bit. We had a lot of stuff at the Amway Center, and we had a lot of stuff downtown, and that was the part that obviously people didn't understand. The mayor of Los Angeles thought that the new Amway Center was out in the I mean, he just assumed that's where it would have been, so he didn't even know the context of it. So that's interesting to think. I think we also kind of get that, right? When you meet somebody from out of town, and you say Orlando, they're like, "Oh, I've been to Orlando," and you're like, "Where?" So that's true. That works out that way. So another thing that happens is you had, I think a lot of people know this, and there's a trip that happens It's supposed to happen every year. It doesn't happen every year, but either every year or every other year. I call it a mission trip, but it's organized by the EDC, and it's the one time that you get the county mayor and the city mayor and a lot of other influencers to go to a city, and you get this, the EDC and others, Mayor Dyer staff, you get to shape the agenda. It's a field trip, and you get to focus on things that you kind of want Orlando to emphasize. Those to me have proven to be tremendously valuable, because essentially what will happen, the most recent trip was to Austin. And you can go to Austin, and it's a case study, obviously, for how you use a major university and how you have a real tech creative community in a lot of spaces like this. Very high urban IQ there, and a lot of cool stuff going on. So talk about that, how that works, and then I can't even remember what some of the other cities you visited are, but I remember that the value of that is sort of we come back with it's an agenda setter basically, and you're on the airplane with everybody, sort of agreeing this is what we're going to do when we get back. I don't think that's obvious to the general public how important that is to sort of get everybody to go see.
Yeah, there's several layers to it. One is being out of the office with a group of business leaders and being able to interact and exchange ideas and information in a more casual setting than you normally would be. I find that to be of great value, that relationship building part of it. But we have focused on singular issues. So we went to San Diego when we were talking about bringing the Burnham Institute here and what the medical city would be. So took a look at that biotech culture in San Diego. When we started talking about the need for our new venues, Nashville had built some new stuff. So we were up there, Creative Village. We went to Montreal and looked at the digital village, so to speak, that they have. So we've tried to Salt Lake City for transit, another one. But I found great value in those trips too, because different cities have come up with ways to do different things that we can emulate. We don't always have to start from scratch, but we can always do better than they do. And I kind of think that's the position that Orlando's in. We're in the good fortune of so many cities that have made their history in the past and are building on that. We're creating our history right now and what we're going to be. And everybody's part of that at this point. And that's what's so exciting, that we can do world-class things and be the very best in things that we're doing. The Amway Center is the best in the world. We're going to have one of the best biotech cultures. We've already got the best modeling, simulation, and training industry in the world. Oh, by the way, we actually have the best theme park cluster in the world.
We take that as well, yeah, you and I were talking, I think, we were talking about something else, but it was when you either been to Boston or we were talking about Boston, but what you have to do when you're trying to build consensus and get things like the community venues done, you essentially have to just flip the argument. So Boston is built, New York City is built, I mean these places, Philadelphia is built. So you have to flip the argument and say we have an opportunity to build these things. It actually ends up being good that we didn't build some of these things in the wrong location or incorrectly or whatever. And so that's, I think, the way we've done a good job of framing the argument. What happens sometimes when we're trying to talk about spaces like this, or we're trying to talk about downtown or whatever, we try to boil that down for the mayor and other city leaders and other business leaders to a certain theme or a certain, something that's being researched or a certain way we think things are going. So I think pretty early on in Mayor Dyer's term, maybe through the Conference of Mayors and ULI and some other stuff, we got on the Richard Florida bandwagon, and we gave Mayor Dyer the Rise of the Creative Class book and said, you need to read this, and if you believe it, great. If you don't, we need to talk about it. But but you read it and drank the Kool-Aid, right? And so now, but talk about, so you understand, I think, the importance of building that culture and that environment, how talent will follow that.
Does everybody know who Richard Florida is? I think we talk about Richard Florida, only one person shaking their head, no. But we talk about Richard Florida enough that it's kind of consensus building that we are kind of a Richard Florida type of city. And the notion, pretty simply, is that the cities that are going to be successful in the future are those that attract talent. And how do you attract talent? You be tolerant, you be fair, you promote equality. So a lot of the things that we do that are the right things to do are also the economic development things to do. So doing things like passing a domestic partner registry is the right thing to do but it also shows the world what type of city we are and attracts the type of talented people that are going to be the entrepreneurs, that are going to start small businesses, that are going to be successful and make our city successful.
There's a term that Richard Florida's research has resulted in that we all talk about. It's called brain drain. So brain drain means when smart people are educated here and leave. So Orlando has brain drain. If you go ask the graduating class at UCF SUNY Medical School where they all want to go live, when they started, it was 0 out of 40 wanted to stay in Orlando. It's more than that now because once they're here, they like it. But the whole point is you're trying to figure out talent goes wherever it wants now. And talent overwhelmingly now wants to go to Austin, Texas, and Seattle, and San Francisco, and Denver, and Minneapolis, and I'm leaving out the really, really great places like San Francisco and New York because I don't know if we can get to that level. We got to figure out how to get to that, get our city in that conversation, and that's really how you build the economy of the future. This is the theory behind Creative Village. Creative Village is not an urban planning exercise or a real estate project as much as it is it's really the rise of the creative class in Orlando's version of it. So if you think about things that way, I think it explains a lot of what we work on.
And the push for some of these other amenities. So the Amway Center,
right.
The Performing Arts Center, the Citrus Bowl, soccer, Sunrail.
Right. So all this stuff matters. People that don't think that does matter are just wrong. There's overwhelming research.
You don't think like that.
So yeah, I'm just the messenger. But the fact is, corporate relocation decisions are made by the CEOs and their boards, and it matters to those people what type of cultural amenities you have in a place, and it matters what the food scene is.
Did you repeat that last thing you said? It matters what kind of
arts and culture you have. It matters what your food is. It matters what transit is a fundamental driver for the next generation. If you don't have mass transit, you lose. It's on the checklist for a lot of companies, and they will not go places. They won't locate places that don't have mass transit. So you just have to take that. That's not Craig Ustler's theory of urbanism. This has proven itself out in the marketplace. So